Keto kills you. They know it. Well, apparently, according to r/ketoduped on Reddit, apparently they talk a bunch of shit about keto diets and all that stuff. But we're going to scroll through here and we're going to see what these people have to say, apparently. Because, sorry, keto doesn't kill you, considering the fact that we've been ketogenic for millions of years as a species. If you include proto-humans that preceded our current speciation, that being Homo sapiens sapien. Okay, let's get ready for this. All right. 17 hours ago, RFK Jr.'s MAHA report cited non-existent studies. Okay, so begging the question fallacy right here. Does this necessarily, if this is true, which it wouldn't surprise me if it's true or not, okay? It really wouldn't. Does this necessarily denigrate or implicate the entire ketogenic community as being anti-scientific? Because it's really what the implication is here. And the answer to that is no, it doesn't. I'm not even going to click the link because it doesn't matter. Also, by the way, ABC News, have we not progressed enough as a society to recognize that mainstream media is just propaganda? I mean, seriously, as trite as it is, just because it's trite doesn't mean that it's false. In fact, many times things are trite because it's true, okay? All right, bacterial overgrowth 2 days ago. I'm slowly reintroducing plant-based foods after being carnivore for 4 to 6 months. Okay, why are you doing that? That's not a good idea at all. You probably got duped again. It's probably carb duped or whatever the fuck. Someone needs to come up with a term if it hasn't been, founded already or discovered for the antithesis to this. Okay, I probably have some kind of bacterial overgrowth. Well, why do you believe that? But if I understand correctly, those bacteria like fat and protein. Oh, so basically what you're saying is that if you eat certain foods, it will cultivate certain bacteria in your gut that thrive off of the food that you're consuming, irrespective of what the food is made up of. Good. Okay, cool. If I eat vegan protein sources like beans, is it going to help? Yeah, see? So you need to if you're going to change your diet to this, I mean, I highly discourage it, but if you're going to change your diet to anything, you need to do so very slowly over the course of 6 to 8 weeks. Okay? With each week lowering your intake of whatever you're trying to transition from and commensurately increasing your intake of whatever you're transitioning to. Okay? That's basically the goal. Proportionally to the point where at the 8-week mark or the 6-week mark, depending on which week length you're going to pick from that sort of interval range of 6 to 8, will be a complete elimination and a complete transition, basically. Okay, I began eating red lentils recently. Okay, so you shouldn't be doing that because of all the plant anti-nutrients and the plant toxins that we don't seem to have genotypically adapted to fully, considering the fact that oxalate dumping is a real thing, okay? And also fiber, which is a contraindication in the human diet. Contraindicated. Contraindicated. By now, link in the description below. Second edition is out now in audiobook, self-narrated audiobook, paperback and hardcover. And by the way, I have finally found a way to get my ebook made in a reflowable format, and it should be done very quickly. I told you I was working on it. Finally found a way. Took way too damn long because of all this editing I have to do all the time. Anyway, look forward to that. Your patience will be rewarded. Patience is a virtue, as they say. Anyway, and I want to add red kidney beans. Okay, so I'm done. It's just a waste of time. Okay, RFK Jr.'s MAHA. Okay, so they're referencing a lot of RFK Jr. for some reason. Okay, probably because he supports carnivore or something like that. Whatever, he's not reflective of the overall general ketogenic population necessarily, okay? Report lists some health benefits of various foods. Okay, purported health benefits. Okay, because if they called them health benefits, we'd have to really evaluate it. And the only thing they could come up with for beef is that it has protein. Okay, so let's read this. It's on the White House's page. Research also consistently links, okay, links is an associative term, okay? There's a lot of things associated with a lot of things. Diets centered on whole foods define that to lower rates of obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, certain cancers, and mental illness. So association doesn't equal causation. Also, what was the strength of the association? How long did the study go on for? What was the population size? What was the statistical significance, if there was any? Was there any statistical significance is really what we should be asking. What was the standard deviation? Too many things, okay? But they give some citations, but whatever. We're not going to look into that. You have to learn how to ask the right questions. You have to know how to ask the right questions. Anyway, this is not surprising. Okay, that's your opinion. Diet and lifestyle significantly influence gene expression. That is a fact in cellular biology. Fact. Ultimately determining our health outcomes. Yes, for instance, leafy greens supply magnesium and folate, critical for energy production and other benefits. Okay, so extremely vague, and also, can you get these benefits, quote unquote, from other foods that also have magnesium and folate in an amount that is ostensibly adequate for human function, considering the fact that there is no evidence that people adopting a carnivore diet come down with nutritional deficiencies as long as it's properly tenured and properly fortified and is actually properly approximating a species-appropriate, species-specific diet. From every resource that we have today and every inference that we have today of ancestral behavior, and dietary behavior is included in that. The answer to this is yes, you can get them from other sources. Leafy greens also have a lot of other things that they didn't mention, like oxalates and oxalic acid. Okay? Go watch my video that I did on, I think it was Victor Prince or something like that, the Southern Keto, about how oxalates work, why they're harmful, what they do, and how it doesn't seem to be the case that we have genotypically adapted to oxalates to a degree that would render them innocuous or benign. Okay? If we did, then maybe, yes, we could eat leafy greens, although they still wouldn't be required. I will say that. Salmon delivers omega-3 fatty acids. Yes, so does red meat. That help reduce. Nope, cause and effect statement. Cardiovascular risk. Nope, cause and effect statement. You cannot inform upon causality in the area of inferential statistics, which is the foundation of human nutrition science. Okay? Because that necessarily implies that the cases that you are studying are identical. And they're not, because of genotypic and phenotypic differences. Fact. Human nutrition science is not science. It is theology, therefore, because science requires control. And you cannot control for human beings. Done. That is bread and circuses, okay? And support brain health. Okay, so again, cannot be informed upon, except for the fact that you do require omega-3 fatty acids for brain health, for brain function. So you could, this is the only one that's relatively okay, okay? Legumes offer fiber. Okay, so fiber is a contraindication in the human diet, isn't it? Because you cannot digest it, and last I checked, if you can't digest something, you shouldn't be eating it at all. Okay, it abrades the enteric lining, which is exactly why it increases mucus secretion. Okay, there was only one study published in the World Journal of Gastroenterology in 2012 that actually remotely attempted to control for confounding variables, which they failed to do because it's human nutrition science, as I just covered. That studied a very small population because of ethical barriers that presented with idiopathic constipation. Idiopathic meaning they don't know what the cause of it is. And they split them up into 3 different groups. One group maintained their fiber intake, another group slightly reduced it, whatever the hell that means, and the other group completely eliminated it. And the only group that actually had a complete amelioration of their constipation, complete amelioration across all 40 plus members, which, I mean, that's something to consider, was the group that removed fiber. Okay, the group that didn't had no amelioration whatsoever and had a bowel motion of, once per 6.83 days, actually. Anal bleeding, bloating, all that stuff. That was a thing. Okay, so it seems to exacerbate constipation, if anything. Okay, and also there's there's 2 associative factors really with diverticulosis, which is increased fiber intake and increased bowel motions per day. And people with diverticulosis they're instructed to adopt a low fiber or low residue diet in order to quote unquote rest the bowel. Okay, I think that our inferences are quite strong, especially considering the fact that we have a very short cecum as compared to our primate ancestors, or really our least distant ancestors, with an appendix attached to it, which is called an appendix for a reason, because it's an appendage of a larger cecum from our past, which tells us that, we weren't consuming too much fiber, was there? Because there wasn't a negative selection pressure imposed that caused us to remove our appendix, but there was a lack of a positive selection pressure that caused us to necessarily maintain a cecum. Associated with our increased brain size, which is associated with increased meat consumption, was a decrease in the appendix. Why did our body choose to take the energy that was required to build the brain from the appendix? Or rather, the cecum, rather. Sorry. Well, good question. Anyway, so shouldn't be consuming fiber at all, and all the benefits that are purported to be yielded from fiber fermentation. First of all, we have a very low capacity, relatively speaking, to ferment fiber, but also they're all able to be reaped from other sources that actually are indicated, which is like eating a ketogenic diet, like carnivore, for example. Our species-appropriate, species-specific diet, or really the diet that best approximates it given our modern world and our modern context. So anyway, and resistant starch, so another fiber, so we already covered that help nourish beneficial gut bacteria. Nope, not beneficial gut bacteria. How do you know it's beneficial? That is your opinion. Okay, it nourishes gut bacteria. It nourishes gut bacteria that are cultivated from the consumption of the resistant starch. They don't nourish mine because mine don't eat resistant starch, do they? This is really simple stuff. How did you determine whether something was beneficial or not? An epidemiological study that traced the beneficial gut bacteria concerned, the quote-unquote beneficial gut bacteria with longer lifespan? Because that would be hilarious, wouldn't it? Absolutely ridiculous. This is just pseudoscience all over the place. Government should just stay out of this shit. They should just stay out of it completely. Okay? Oh, so now we're on nuts. Leafy greens, salmon, legumes, and nuts. You shouldn't really be eating any of this. Salmon is okay. Occasionally. Okay? Not because salmon is bad, but because the amount of salmon that we were consuming on a regular basis was pretty minimal, okay? You also have to be careful with how you source it, how it's raised and all that. So nuts contain magnesium, so does red meat. That helps reduce oxidative stress, according to who on the basis of what? According to whom, rather. You know what? I have a new challenge that I've imposed on myself to really start properly using whom and who. I've never in my life done that, ever. It's gonna be difficult. Keep me in check. Yeah, also oxidative stress as measured by what? As defined by what? Okay, and enhances activity of mitochondrial enzymes. Okay, so also, let's just say that all this is correct for the sake of brevity. Magnesium is contained in meat in adequate amounts, okay? Because if it weren't, then it wouldn't be species appropriate, would it? Beef contains protein that maintains, so this is the point of the person posting this. Beef contains protein that maintains skeletal muscle, which plays a key role in regulating metabolic health. Yeah, so weak, really. Beef contains a lot of things. It contains everything you need, actually, doesn't it? Whole milk and other dairy products, so quite a contentious topic. I've made a video about dairy before, about my opinions on that, are rich sources of calcium. Okay, great. That begs the question as to whether the amount of calcium found in dairy is something that should be consumed on a regular basis. And it also begs the question as to whether beef doesn't contain sufficient calcium, because it does. Vitamin D, yep, get sunlight, basically, actually. And also, a lot of times it's reinforced with vitamin D. And bioactive fatty acids, same thing with beef. Good. Which support bone health. Yep. Which meat does too. It helps regulate inflammation. Dairy can actually be inflammatory for people. Okay. And also, show me a study that it helps regulate inflammation. And may reduce, okay, see that word may? It also means it may not. Reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes. Yeah, well, type 2 diabetes, God. Type 2 diabetes is caused by excess carbohydrate consumption, and it's exacerbated by inflammation, things that cause inflammation, okay? So this is just weak. I don't like this at all. I really don't. I know that a lot of people might be like, wow, okay, I mean, Eddie, I thought you would like it. No, I don't. I'm sorry. And if you like it, that's fine. There's reasons to like it. There's certain reasons, but the government should just stay out of it. They really just should stay out of it. I know that's a libertarian view. I'm not a libertarian, but in this case, they should just stay out of it, okay? So anyway, yes, your little prompt here that is supposed to indicate that keto people are stupid isn't doing what you're trying to do. Sorry, okay? Two things can be true at once. This is ridiculous, and also a carnivore diet is the best approximation to a species-appropriate, species-specific diet for the entire genome of Homo sapiens sapien across the board, okay? From every hard inference that we have. All right, next, I think Bropithecus is a great term for keto/carnivore zealots. Why? Derived from bro plus Australopithecus, since they are all into bro science. Define bro science. It's not bro science. I think bro science falls into the category of not science, but something that's cherry-picked in order to justify masculinity to a fault. Because there's too much femininity, there's toxic femininity, and there's toxic masculinity. The thing about toxic masculinity is the fact that that term is being used to just describe masculinity in the first place. Okay, it's been abused and it's been perverted. Okay, it doesn't mean it's not a thing. Same thing with insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is a thing, it's just being abused because it's being misdefined, or it's being misinterpreted. Toxic masculinity is, I don't know, basically acting like a 4-year-old child and breaking things when you get mad. Okay, well, yeah, that's masculine because it shows aggression, which is a masculine trait, but no, not good. But I think that's kind of what they're saying. It's sort of a haphazard, cherry-picked scientific derivative or something, where people will just point to things and go, well, meat is masculine, and therefore that's why we should eat meat. It's arriving at a conclusion based on flawed, perverted, flagrant logic. Okay, I think that's really what they're trying to get at. And there's actual examples of this, but this is actually a lot more sophisticated. This is not unsophisticated, barbaric scientific derivation, okay? We're arriving at these conclusions based on hard scientific inferences like comparative anatomy, biochemistry, human physiology, observational paleoanthropology, some chemical anthropology, physics when you start talking about calories, etc. Okay, those are our inferences. Okay, we're done here. So bro science, ancestor worship, okay, so that's dramatization, okay? And primal lifestyle. Okay, and there's also a lot of ambiguity and disagreement about what a primal lifestyle is, okay? Who knows, they might even like it. Whatever, okay, so weak, whatever. Time to become a fitness scammer myself. If I tell people they can eat unlimited calories, bacon, butter, and grow a beard, I can get rich, right? You can get rich doing anything, buddy. You can get rich being a vegan. I just did a video just now, before this recording. I did a video on Paul Saladino's newsletter, okay? Paul Saladino gets hundreds of thousands. He gets at least $100,000 a month, just so you guys know that. I don't have any evidence of that, but I am so certain about that. It's unbelievable. It's just a fact. He is a millionaire. He is a millionaire. So just so you guys know that. That is happening. Anyway, unlimited calories. You can't eat calories at all, buddy. So this is just unscientific as You can't consume a calorie because calories are the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water around a closed thermodynamic system, also known as a bomb calorimeter, by 1 degree Celsius. It's a measurement of kinetic activity, or the movement of the molecules in that water, that movement being caused by photons of a certain wavelength interacting with the surrounding water after being released from the rapid combustion of the food within said bomb calorimeter via a massive electrical current, thus causing rotations, vibrations, and translations. Okay? Ridiculous. You can't consume a calorie. There's no calories in food. You don't derive calories from your food. You release calories from your body, which creates body heat, but that is from exothermic biochemical reactions that occur in the body, and they are not a proxy measure for mass balance because not every calorie is reflective of a commensurate decrease in an equivalent mass unit. We are f***ing done. You can't consume calories. Next. Anyway, also unlimited bacon butter. Okay, so no, we say to eat till satiety, okay, and eat according to your appetite. And grow a beard, no one said that here. I can get rich, right? Yes, again, you can get rich doing anything, okay? Cool. Also, you want to talk about being rich. I'm not rich, okay? So, anyway, can you imagine looking like this and telling people to never limit calories? So, again, with the calories argument, you can't consume a calorie. You don't derive calories from your food. The calorie number on food labels is allowed to be out by up to 20% in either direction because you can't even measure calories released from the rapid combustion of the food in a bomb calorimeter because you can't directly measure energy. You can estimate it, okay? So that too, and you can't even measure the amount of calories released from your body, even if they were a proxy measure for mass balance, which they aren't as well. So many issues. We're an open thermodynamic system, so therefore the law of conservation of mass needs to be considered in the equation of the first law of thermodynamics. We're not a closed one, so blah, 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 blah. This is real science that I actually understand, okay? Okay, and you don't. So anyway, okay, so...
Those of you who've been following my conversations, I hope have come...
Okay, so this is what the guy looks like. I have no idea what he looks like. I don't know what his dietary protocol is, but anyway, doesn't really matter to me. Don't care. Bye. Watch your vegetable intake. So they're clearly making fun of something here. Okay. How are people losing weight so fast? 69 upvotes, 245 comments. Are you actually tracking your carbohydrates? Okay, that's something to consider, I guess. Sure. Yeah, definitely. Well, definitely. This is something that, once again, when you're talking about individual clientele, you would want to get in touch with Coach Stephen Thomas or Coach Richard Smith. I'm serious. They really know what they're talking about, and they can really help you with that. Things that come to my mind from a scientific physiological standpoint, of course, would be inflammation status. So a lot of people, since we live in a modern world, there's externalities that could still be in place that you can't really avoid, that could be causing you to reach like 80% of your goals. You still have some stalling. I have products that I promote specifically for that purpose that are designed to be temporary, so don't think that I'm trying to gouge you of money. You know, I'm not. They're specifically the Cyactive formulas from Cerule. You got Cyactive Joint and then regular Cyactive. Sometimes people can have a negative feedback loop where they're having inflammation, but the inflammation causes more inflammation. And it's just a negative feedback loop. I actually had this happen with me. This is going to sound odd and out of place, but I was using a natural deodorant and it was very abrasive. And it made like tiny cuts in my armpit, actually, in both of them. And it hurt so bad. I had to stop wearing deodorant for weeks. And the itching and the pain did not go away for weeks. And so I used actually a steroid cream one time and it went away, but it healed completely. And the reason for it was a negative feedback loop. The abrasive stuff, the abrasive substances caused an injury, but the rubbing and the friction of my armpits as I move caused it to never, ever heal. I would have to hold my arms out like this for it to heal. Historically, we wouldn't have even sustained an injury there in the first place. So Western medicine, I think that we should appreciate what it does provide for us, but also appreciate that we depend on it to a fault, and there's a lot of faulty sort of fundamental philosophy behind Western medicine and the history behind it. You know, I'm definitely one to talk about that. I talk about that in my book, Contrainidicated, chapter 4. We talk about the history of big pharma and all that. It's fraudulent, it's rife with problems, but to pretend like Western medicine hasn't provided us with anything of utility that's also naive. There's nuance involved like there is with literally everything. So, anyway, I recommend using these as a more holistic approach, though, if you're having issues. I recommend, first and foremost, though, trying this, Stim Enhance Ultra, which is their flagship product, and this is a product that I think that you should be taking forever, frankly. I really do. I think so. Same thing with Plasma Flow, but that has little relevance to the subject matter at hand. So anyway, but that has utility as well. Yes, inflammation is one thing that comes to mind. What's your fasting insulin? That as well. Like, what is your health history? Do you have any metabolic disturbances from past contraindicated behavior? All that stuff. Those are things to consider. Are you grounding? A lot of people they put too much emphasis on diet, and as much as I think that's the primary thing that one should focus on, I mean, how much sunlight do you get? How much do you ground regularly? Okay, have you been fasting? If so, you might want to eat more actually and not fast, because that can jumpstart your metabolism. Also, you can have too low of insulin as well eventually, because you're not consuming sufficient protein, and so you might want to consider eating more food in that regard. So same sort of conclusion there. Yeah, you can have either too low of insulin or too high of insulin. There's a balance to be had because insulin influences metabolic rate. So that's why you're seeing all these people have so many benefits with weight loss on the sugar diet, right? Yeah. So anyway, we'll get to that in a second, I think, because I just saw a Reddit post in this little thread here talking about it. There's a lot of things to consider because the amount of vegetables you are eating looks to me like it may be too high, even accounting for net carbs. Maybe, but vegetables don't really have that many carbs unless you're talking about starchy ones like potatoes. Carrots have 12 grams of carbs per cup. If cooked, yes, that's correct, actually. That's a good point. But again, I mean, having that low, that's still quite a low amount of carbohydrates. Onions are also somewhat high in carbs. Yes, that's why they taste sweet if you cook them enough. So yes, all these factors are something to consider, but I mean, to reduce it to one thing may be irresponsible, especially if it's that little of an amount of carbohydrate content. So they're basically mocking this person for saying it's the vegetables because on the surface it just sounds so outlandish, but it could be an influence. I don't think it's a major influence though. Okay, so again, begging the question fallacy that just because someone could be wrong, or maybe someone could say something inane in a group chat or something, not to say that this necessarily was silly, that instance can't be extrapolated to the entire group of people. Okay, it's just a generalization. Okay, Paul Saladino meeting RFK, not sure what that's. Yeah, I saw that. That was really disappointing, by the way. The fact that Paul Saladino met with RFK Jr., that man should not be in the White House. Again, this tells us that we need to stand up to this nonsense. This should tell you. And by the way, a great way of doing that is getting authority next to your name, no matter what it is. Okay, a lot of people don't realize that if I wanted to call myself a coach right now, legally I could do that. But if you actually want international accreditation that allows you to actually be recognized by other institutions as an authority figure, and you want to have it be the case that it's easier to get insurance, for example, to protect yourself, because that's important. All doctors have it, even the good ones, okay? It's not because we're dangerous or something. You may want to consider signing up to be a member of the carnivore certification program that I'm affiliated with Carnivore Coach Peter with. Links to the website as well as contact information to Peter himself about that in the description below, because it's extremely important. As much as it is a fallacy to appeal to authority, it doesn't change the fact that most people still appeal to authority. And also it doesn't change the fact that there are many people running rampant, therefore, with authority tags that are having far more influence over people than we have. Because, oh, well, you're just anti-science, though. What would be really funny is if you held your conclusions that you hold right now as an internationally accredited coach, because then you could be like, well, now I'm a coach, so are you going to hold that same argument to me? No, I think it has utility. And it's also, I've contributed 4 modules to that program. It is a great program with a great community. Consider that. So if you want to sign up, get a hold of Coach Peter for that. Links in the description below for his contact information, and he can negotiate a plan with you. Breaking, White House releases Maha Commission report. Don't care. We already covered that. This sugar diet trending meme has legs. So you recognize that it's a meme. Good. So it shouldn't be taken seriously. Has legs. Well, according to whom, on the basis of what? And it's making carnivore/keto dieters really mad. It's not making us angry at the fact that people are seeing results. What's angering us, if anything, what's annoying us, is the fact that these people are pretending as if their diet is in some way superior to a carnivore diet when they're consuming candy, okay? Not to mention that they're also making up a bunch of lies and falsehoods surrounding the carnivore diet in order to justify the embarkation upon the sugar diet or a sugar diet, okay? It's absolutely ridiculous. Oh, you're not fixing the root cause with a carnivore diet when it comes to diabetes because they're still insulin resistant. Are you absolutely out of your mind? I mean, the answer to that is yes. That's a rhetorical question. Oh, they're actually not in ketosis. They're eating high protein. No, they still are in ketosis. Their glucose goes up, but so do their ketones after eating protein. Their I-to-G ratio, insulin to glucagon, actually goes down. Okay? Holy shit. That's what it is. It's unscientific. That's what's annoying. TLDR, It's trending on YouTube and other social media sites. Yep, so what? I've already covered it multiple times on this channel. Simply search sugar diet and it's fueled by ex-carnivores. No, it's not. It's fueled by a bunch of gym bros, okay? I mean, I guess you could say they're ex-carnivores because Cole Robinson was a ketogenic dieter, which is basically carnivore in his situation, and Mark Bell was a carnivore advocate. But Mark Bell said himself that he wasn't fully carnivore. He had a lot of fruit. So no, personally, I'm not for fad diets. Yeah, it's a fad diet, but it's hilarious seeing carnivore/anti-carb gurus seeing their grift starting to dry up and die. It's not a grift. It's not a grift. What they are seeing is a result in rapid fat loss, okay, because of the fact that, first of all, they're cutting protein and they're cutting fat. So it's a restriction diet protocol. And also, in the case of carnivores that were long-term carnivores that had weight loss stalling, what they're probably seeing is finally an increase in insulin, and therefore an increase in metabolic rate. Like I said at the beginning, you can have too low of insulin, which can be achieved on a carnivore diet, more easily than really any other diet, actually, to be fair. But you can also have too high of insulin if you're, overweight still. Or if you're overweight, you're trying to lose weight and you're eating too much. It has to do with fat cell hypertrophy and hyperplasia and all that stuff. So there's a balance to be had. Okay? Are you going to blame that on carnivore if you're the latter example? Or are you going to blame it on your past behavior that you engaged in for decades? I mean, it really is this simple. Okay? How to deal with carnivores. Oh, good. Okay. How do you deal with us? R/sugar diet. How to deal with carnivores. I've had a few run-ins lately with diehard carnivore diet advocates, people who are not just following it quietly for their own health, but are actively trying to cancel any mention of sugar in all forms. Well, yes, because sugar in all forms is contraindicated for human consumption because it's not required for human consumption in any degree whatsoever, in any gram whatsoever, okay? And above a certain physiological concentration in the bloodstream that is most conducively achieved by consuming the damn thing is toxic. Okay? We're done. Our efficiency for gluconeogenesis is that of hypercarnivores for a reason. Evolutionary pressures have not only caused us to develop an efficiency for that, but also maintain it over the course of hundreds of thousands, millions of years. Okay, so we're done with that. And also, what do you mean cancel any mention? No, we're not trying to cancel it. We're trying to discourage any mention of an advocation of sugar consumption to any significant degree whatsoever. And I don't mean just added sugars or ultra-processed stuff. I mean fruit, root vegetables, even the trace carbs and things like tomatoes or carrots. Yes. However, the last part, the trace carbs and tomatoes or carrots, those are not the main concern in tomatoes and carrots, okay? They're really not. The main concern, at least. Anytime I post something about balanced eating, yeah, so define balance, because that's a relative term, okay? See, here's something that you actually learn in statistics, okay? In mathematics, basic math. Do you know how to calculate a mean, an average? Let's say you have 5 numbers. The average of those numbers is the sum of all those numbers divided by the amount of numbers you have, okay? That's your average. It turns out that the average value you yield is not a number that is directly in the middle of all the numbers you have. It's the balance point of your data, sure, but it can be like 90%. It could be a super high number, frankly. Okay, if I have a number 1, 2, 2, 3, and 1,000, what's my average going to be? Well, it's going to be a high number that's more close to 1,000 if you had all your numbers like here, 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 here. The mean, if it were sort of your balance point, wouldn't be right in the middle of the numbers. It would be right over here. It could be 90% to the right, leaving 90% of space on the left and only 10% on the right. Okay, balance is a relative term, isn't it? Just like moderation is a relative term. Yeah, I have a balanced diet. Sure. Balance doesn't mean an equal amount of everything. 33%, 33%, 33%. 33% carbs, 33% protein, 33% fat. It's not what it means. I mean, you wouldn't balance everything in nature that you can ever consume and you can actually put in your mouth and swallow, would you? Okay, this book right next to me. Should I balance the consumption of that? And I know that's an absurd question, but it's like, if someone immediately just recoils because they're like, what the f***? That's a stupid question, Eddie. It's like, okay, answer why that's a stupid question. It's a stupid question because, well, you shouldn't eat paper. Why? Why should you not eat paper? I'm serious. Answer these questions. Bring it down to logical extension, okay? The linear logic here. Why should you not eat paper? Well, you don't require paper at all. See where this is going? It's not appetizing, probably because we haven't developed an evolutionary pressure to actually find paper appetizing because we weren't eating that throughout history. So it's not required. We weren't eating it throughout history. Okay. And also, above a certain amount, you're probably going to harm yourself because it's paper. Oh, what does that have in common with f***ing carbs? The only thing that doesn't match is the part where I said it doesn't taste good. Carbs taste good because there was actually some context where carbs were consumed throughout history. Sure, absolutely. And that gets into some nuance. But there was no negative selection pressure to knock that out. And so when we stopped consuming carbs, We didn't knock it out. Not only that, we actually selected for the gene that allows us to break down carbohydrates and, have a positive response to the taste of them. We selected for it multiple times because eventually we started consuming carbs throughout the agrarian revolution. Problem is, it doesn't mean that it's required as a general rule to any significant degree because our efficiency for gluconeogenesis is still extremely high, okay? So I respect the nuance because nuance is just truth. Sorry, if your ideology prevents you from engaging and accepting the truth, it's wrong. But what is true is our efficiency for gluconeogenesis is still very high, okay? If you want to eat 20 grams of carbs, go right the ahead. I just think it's a slippery slope for many people. I would say most people, because addiction is a real thing, especially in our modern world. It's like, well, let's weigh the pros and cons. 20 grams of carbs, let's say in my genotype, that's required, 20 grams of carbs. Well, should I eat 20 grams of carbs or should I try and just adapt myself to 0 grams, considering the fact that if I actually had 20 grams, it would definitely cause me to spiral into 120 grams. That is an actual question that's not rhetorical. I'm not saying it with any conviction. I'm not implying that I have a convicting answer to that. It's just something to consider. Anyway, so balanced eating, ridiculous. Or share something about the benefits of fruit. So your opinion, because you can't inform upon benefits of anything in the area of human nutrition science because it isn't science at all. It is theology. Or a plant-based dish. So again, your opinion. Plants are not required for human consumption and they're not food for humans, okay? They pop in with fruit is toxic. Yes, because it is. Sugar feeds cancer. Well, factually true. Okay, I wrote about this in my book as well. Humans didn't evolve to, by the way, based on that logic alone, it doesn't mean that sugar causes cancer. By the way, those are two different things, okay? Humans didn't evolve to eat carbs, etc. Well, that's also true. We evolved to be able to consume carbohydrates and yield energy from it, and we should be thankful for that, by the way. We should be thankful that when we consume carbs, we have the ability to use it for energy, okay? Instead of it like killing us upon consumption or something. We're very versatile. So in crisis situations, we can consume them. But anyway, it's like there's a new wave of nutritional absolutism. Well, sometimes things are absolute, like the truth, okay? Where nuance has died. Ah, yes, nuance has died. I literally cover nuance on this channel more than any other channel I've ever seen. I'm sorry. I really do. You'll struggle to find a channel as objective as this one. So no, nuance has not died. Many people within the carnivore space do not respect nuance, but that is not reflective of every single person in the space. And all carbs are now seen as poison. Well, they are a drug. They are drugs, okay? And I covered this in a video that I just did recently about, is sugar a drug? Or yes, sugar is a drug, or something like that, because it is. But that doesn't mean that you should never consume sugar, because drugs have utility sometimes in certain circumstances. Anesthesia is a drug. You should not be consuming or having an anesthesia administered into you unless you're undergoing a surgery. Yeah, perhaps you should do that, okay? They have certain indications under very few circumstances, okay? That's what I said about sugar. I'm serious. That's what I said about sugar. Dr. Jaquish, for example, if people know of Dr. Jaquish, he actually uses carbohydrates before a photo shoot sometimes because he's using it as a tool to inflate his muscles by filling up his glycogen stores. There you go. A great example is this guy. Okay, let's look at this. Oh, meat-fueled mass. Yes, I follow him. Sugar diet, avoid. Yeah, okay, good. Great. I get that everyone's entitled to their diet choices. If the carnivore diet works for them medically, fine. But when they start turning it into a moral crusade, well, we don't turn it into a moral crusade. Some people might. I don't. Demonizing anyone who eats a banana. So no, we're not demonizing people. What we're saying is that if you want to eat a banana, fine, but do not pretend like it is indicated in any way, and do not get online and say, oh, well, actually, I like this banana, so you should be eating a banana, guys. You should be doing this. You should be doing exactly what I'm doing. And look at this study that justifies my addiction and therefore is true. Look at this study that supports it when it doesn't, because it doesn't have any conviction behind it. That's a problem, okay? And aggressively spreading misinformation. So point out the misinformation. We'll cover it. About sugar and carbs. So, yeah, it's hard to stay silent. Well, make a video then so I can tear you down. So how do you all deal with these interactions? Do you engage with data and citations, which usually gets ignored? Yeah, because you don't know what data and actual citation credibility and integrity is if it slapped you upside the chin. Oh my God, I don't ignore it. I engage with it. I contend with it. Watch my channel. I read every study that's referenced. I'm not kidding. You don't understand how to interpret science, though. You don't understand statistical inference. Do you just block and move on? Any tips on keeping the peace without letting misinformation go unchecked? Yeah, define misinformation. That's amazing, isn't it? We'd love to hear your strategies. Let's look at the responses. Probably many of us are ex-carnivores. Yeah, because a lot of people can have weight loss stalling and they don't understand the actual science behind things. It's a shame, okay? But it doesn't mean you weren't right. before. It's amazing how rigid that thinking is. Well, sometimes the truth is rigid. Sorry, it doesn't. The truth being exclusive and harsh, so to speak, doesn't mean that it isn't true. Okay, just because something is rigid doesn't mean that it isn't true. Sorry, plants are trying to kill you. Yeah, okay, so that is a sensational phrase, really pioneered by Anthony Chaffee. With all due respect to Anthony, I'd love to be able to talk to you, Anthony, if you're watching. They're not actively trying to kill you. They're trying to discourage their own consumption, okay? It's self-defense. If someone broke into your house and you shot them, you were not trying to kill them. You were trying to defend yourself. Same thing with the plants here, okay? It's a sensational term, but yes, they have plants' defense chemicals. Now, granted, from that logic alone, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be consuming plants. What needs to be addressed, though, is how well have humans genotypically adapted to those plant toxins, which would indicate that we actually have an indication for those foods in our diet. It doesn't seem, from every inference we have, such as oxalate dumping, we've evolved to consume those plant toxins. Not to mention that there's also carbohydrates within the plants that we definitely, especially in the amount that we find them in modern day plants, and their ubiquity and their constant access, we definitely have not adapted to at all. They are man-made inventions. So anyway, it's a very digestible slogan. Yes, which is another reason why it's caught on. Yes, things can become cultic despite the fact that some things can be based in truth. Let's say that you are a viewer of mine that is a Christian. This is, as soon as I mention this, it's going to get contentious. You believe that to be true. Let's say that it is, for the sake of the argument. Christianity is true. It doesn't mean that there aren't factions of Christianity that are cultic, that operate as a cult. But it doesn't mean, in the situation where Christianity is true, that Christianity isn't true. It just means there are factions that can be cultic. So again, logical fallacy here. Okay? That's the first thing that comes to mind, because cults, usually when people say cult, you think of religion. But the people who are carnivore also have shown themselves to be open-minded before, so they are highly likely to embrace the sugar diet also. That's also true, okay? But it doesn't mean that it's indicated from every inference we have, okay? As counterintuitive as that sounds. Yeah, well, it's not counterintuitive. To be honest, I don't plan on evangelizing anyone on this diet until I get to Shred City. Oh God, does this guy watch the super ultra ripped grandpa or something guy named Sean online that I just reacted to? Because it was like Stall City, he said in the video or something. Anyway, so basically this begs the question. This is a begging the question fallacy. So if you get shredded, does that mean that the way that you got shredded was in any way indicated and appropriate for your physiology as a human being? No. If your goal is weight loss and you cut your legs off and lose weight, was that appropriate? You lost weight. Oh, it actually depends on how you go about maintaining and acquiring a physique. That matters. Oh, okay. Good. So also, you just said that you would evangelize people. See, the thing about me being a carnivore is that I don't evangelize people. You might think I do because of the way that I act on this channel. I don't. You can buy my book if you want. Fine. I never evangelize people. You need to go carnivore. You need to go carnivore. You should go carnivore. Okay. Well, I do say you should go carnivore, but it's not the first thing I say. Like, okay, hey, by the way, gratuitously, hey, are you carnivore? You should go carnivore. That's not what I do. Okay. What I do on this channel is I just attack people that are misrepresenting science and saying that it can say things that it can't. My channel is a lot more philosophical than people think it is. It goes deeper than diet. It's really, yes, it focuses on diet, sure, because it's what I know more about than anything else, human physiology and stuff. That's my interest. But really, my main channel, if you could sum it up, is me talking about how science itself, as a whole, can tell us a lot less about the universe than we pretend it can. My main purpose on this channel is stopping people from being convicting about science. It's to spread the idea, to convey the idea of ambiguity's presence in all of the world. It's a lot more philosophical than people think it is. Okay? Anyway, logic, philosophy. Anyways, I'm glad I found this community. Good. Yeah, so basically what I was saying is he does plan to evangelize at some point. So not good. He just won't now. Okay, dude, give me a break. It's always big sugar or big pharma, but never big meat. Well, I've talked about how any corporation is going to have specialized interests and they're probably going to fraudulently represent things, but it doesn't mean that meat itself is bad. Okay, big meat, the big meat corporations, sure, they've probably been just as misanthropic because it is a corporation that is run by people, and people can be flawed. They are flawed, okay? This is why, depending on who is in power in a corporation, that will influence the credibility of the corporation. So that's why corporations themselves shouldn't be denigrated. Should they? The ties are turning a bit. Good. The ties. Here's a YouTube video that they link. I'm just laughing my off at the comments. People have learned to love carbs again. Yeah, so not good. Not good at all. Okay? Dad bod can say what he wants, but his credibility has definitely taken a hit. Okay, let's look. Dad bod?
If you've been paying attention.
Oh god. Seriously? You're gonna talk about Ken Berry for making this video? They're not losing their So the comments, I left Stall City on the sugar. Yeah, so you immediately know when someone says Stall City, they're a gym bro that have extremely lean physiques, lots of muscle mass, a lot of oxidative tissue to withstand this carbohydrate load, etc., etc. It's really something. And I already covered the mechanism as to why, the most likely mechanism for that. So this is just ridiculous. Yes, you got your metabolic rate up. Great. You should have been consuming sufficient protein. Same problems, guys. Anyway, good, great. Are grifters and influencers the new religious leaders of the West? Carnivore, butter and coffee, seed oil free, raw milk, Eucharist. RFK is the new pope. No. Lonely, old, overweight people follow influencers because they have no real friends. Parasocial ties with creators stand in for actual friends. Okay, so forget the influencer culture because there's always problems with that. We need to descry the truth. We need to purvey the truth. What is true and what is false based on the best inferences that we have without misrepresenting the inferences and what the conclusions can actually provide us with in terms of information. Okay? Okay. The 2025 dietary guidelines work is underway. This in particular should provoke tons of butthurt and screeching from the usual suspects. So let's see. The committee recommends that the proposed Eat Healthy Your Way dietary pattern emphasizes dietary intakes of beans, peas, and lentils. So really, there's not going to be any change anyway. While reducing intakes of red and processed meats, good. Yeah, so yeah, basically the exact same thing. As supported by systematic reviews. Yeah, totally supported by systematic reviews. By the way, those are meta-analyses, and therefore you have to look at the integrity of each individual study to even tell the integrity of the meta-analysis. Okay? How many studies? Was it cherry-picked? As well as food pattern modeling analyses. Yeah, good, great. So those are really informative. There's no noise around those signals, indicating that nutrient goals are generally met with such a shift from the 2020 HUSS to include more plant-based protein foods. Yep, exactly. Yeah, good. The committee also proposes reorganizing the order of the protein foods group to list beans, peas, and lentils first, followed by nuts, seeds, and soy products, then seafood, and finally meats, poultry, and eggs. What a ridiculous dietary guideline here. This is why you just shouldn't listen to them. The organization itself, you just shouldn't listen to. I don't care if they say to eat red meat, eat a carnivore diet. You're not the one to tell me. I'm not eating it because they're saying it. Ridiculous. Dig deep, everybody. Okay, so this is carnivore muscle here. If you have any capacity to help, I need it now. Please, 2 weeks ago. I feel for you, hope this... Yeah, so I watched this video and I actually promoted it because he needs help. Yeah, because he has a chronic condition because of a structural issue. And also, I don't know how much exercise he's engaging in because that's going to influence it as well. He is an outlier because he is not representative of the entire population at large, okay? Because he has a structural issue. So do I, by the way. Hypermobile EDS. See, this is the problem. A lot of people will say, oh, there's a lot of people that are sick on carnivore. It tells you a lot about carnivore. So that, if you want to abstract the view, that's their position is X is causing Y. The carnivore diet is causing people to be sick. What if it's Y causing X? Most people that migrate to a carnivore diet and flock to a carnivore diet, X, are sick. They have issues first. Okay, if you see an XY axis and the line is like this and it's a perfect relationship, perfect positive relationship, all the data points are on the line, 100% positive relationship, you cannot establish whether X is causing Y or Y is causing X. Can you? On an abstract basis. Same thing here. Oh, look at all these sick people on carnivore. Yeah, so are you saying that carnivore caused the sickness, or are you saying sickness caused people to go carnivore? You're saying the former, inappropriately, with no evidence. That's your opinion. Dig deep, everybody. Yeah, so not representative of the entire population at large. Okay, God damn. Okay, Nina Teicholz, the founder of the nonprofit group Nutrition Coalition and a supporter of saturated fats like beef tallow, said in an email that she is already having conversations with Kennedy's team about the dietary guidelines recommendations. Well, good, great, fantastic. I'm not going to listen to them either way. Already said that. So Marty Macari says he's redoing the food pyramid. Well, okay. That's one I haven't heard before. We'll see this and think, hell yeah, grocery store's meat section misted with fresh blood every few minutes. It's a joke, guys. Seriously. I just found out that the brand of fiber tortillas I usually buy fell into the seed oil hype. I'm fine. Just saw, what does that mean? I saw a pack at a big box retailer and it said no seed oils on the package. Needless to say, I got the other kind. Oh my God. Dude, you are obsessed. You're actually obsessed. Rent-free in your head, man. Seriously. Who would have thought I'm a little annoyed that I spent so many years thinking keto was obviously good. Well, define good. Me. Okay, and define keto. What do you mean by keto? Now that we have a lot of data, oh my God. Yeah, show us the data so that we can refute every single piece of it. It turns out that the people who said fat, especially saturated fat, clogs your arteries were just totally correct. No, they weren't. I've had enough. I've had enough of this. I should not have believed the contrarians. We're not contrarians. I've had enough. I'm done. I'm exhausted. I've already done multiple videos before this. My brain is fried. I've got multiple videos afterwards to deal with. So just as unscientific as we all thought it would be. Okay, seriously. I mean, let's just put it this way. If saturated fat were, what is the mechanism by which saturated fat clogs your arteries? Okay, because it's not the saturated fat itself. Okay, when you eat little pieces of bread, when you eat bread, there's not little pieces of bread flowing through your bloodstream. Okay, that's not what happens. So it's not the fat actually getting clogged. Even if it were, by the way, even if that were the case, fat goes into your arteries in the same form that you consumed it in. It's not going to be room temperature, so it's going to be liquid still. So it's not going to solidify that way. So it's clearly another mechanism. Is it the fat particles being carried by chylomicrons, lipoproteins like LDL? Is it because it contributes to higher LDL production? Let's say both of those are the arguments that are made. Well, then you have to consider the fact that all of those are present within the entire vascular system, and heart disease only occurs in one part of the vascular system, which is the arterial side instead of the venous side, despite the fact that the cholesterol, fat content, whatever, is all the same on both sides. And also, not only does it only occur on the arterial side, but it doesn't occur as a blanket. It occurs in set sites in the vascular system in the arterial side, specifically that are predictable 100% of the time, and are areas that experience the most turbulent blood flow that is exacerbated by hypertension. Atherosclerotic plaque is also constituted of 1 plus or minus 1% of cholesterol, foam cells, LDL, etc. It's largely composed of scar tissue that can become calcified at later stages, become unstable and rupture, then, cause thrombi, which are blood clots. That's how atherosclerosis happens, and it occurs over the course of decades. Okay, we're done. We're absolutely done. Saturated fat does not cause heart disease. We're done. Not to mention that the entire lipid heart hypothesis was based on fraud to begin with, which on a logical basis doesn't necessarily mean the hypothesis is false. However, it's a pretty damn strong inference considering the fact that if it were true, why did you have to lie to get it through? Why couldn't you just depend on the truth? It's just ridiculous. I remember whenever I was a kid and I lied about something, and it turned out to be the case that I lied. I got caught lying, but then my lie actually turned out to be true. And I just remember kicking myself because I was like, well, I could have just told the truth about it, couldn't I? And I would I don't know how to describe it. You probably understand what I'm saying, but my brain is fried. Like I said, you know what? It's because I'm not eating those carbohydrates. That's really what it is. I'm just, I'm too carbohydrate deprived. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? What have you been doing all this time? In fact, while you're at it, hit the bell notification so that you're alerted of all new uploads. That'd be good. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below about this. And also buy my book, Contrainidicated. Second edition is out now. Buy it if you haven't already. It is in audiobook, paperback, and hardcover versions. The audiobook is self-narrated. And finally, fortunately, I have an ability to create my ebook in a reflowable format to get it on Google Play, Kindle, Apple Books, Barnes & Noble, for example. I'm going to get them all up. Finally, I told you it was in the works. I told you I'd get it done. I told you. It just took a while. Finally found a way to do that. But patience is a virtue. You are being rewarded for your patience for anyone that has been waiting for that. So, also, the link on the bottom of... Also, subscribe to the Patreon if you haven't already to gain access to 1 week early uploads, ad-free content, uncensored content, and an exclusive Discord server. And also, the link on the bottom of the screen. What is that link? Well, that is a link that will bring you to an amazing site with amazing products from an amazing brand known as Cerule, like I covered earlier in the video. If you purchase product through the link, you will get a permanent percentage discount and permanent free shipping when signing up for monthly deliveries. And if you email me behind the scenes at edgoki@pm.me, you can learn how to earn those products for free, because who in their right mind wouldn't want that? But of course, I wouldn't recommend buying anything at all if you don't know anything about the product. So fortunately for you, I have a video linked in the top right corner of the screen, the Cerule Products link, which is a complete video elucidation and explanation of what those products are, who should take them, why you should take them, when to take them, etc., etc. And I'd also further migrate to the description below to find a video that I did about these products in further detail, as well as the company of Cerule itself, which I think is incredibly important if you're willing to, make a contribution towards the company with a purchase. So, with that being said, join me next time when we are reacting to more just unscientific bullshit, frankly. It's unbelievable, the cope and the logical fallacies here. People don't know how to critically think, and it's very sad. So, till then.